If you're someone that's been training calisthenics and learnt the basics and you're now trying to move on to different skills such as the planche, front lever or even handstand, but you feel kind of stuck, well, let me tell you that your strength and motivation might not actually be the problem, it's your system. Most people in calisthenics don't train the right way. They think that the harder they push, the more workouts that they do, the better the progress and the better results. But that's not the case in calisthenics. You can't train with this no pain, no gain mentality. So that's why in this video, I'm going to be covering topics such as common training mistakes, the 3 pillars of progress when it comes to calisthenics, as well as how to structure your workouts on a daily as well as weekly basis, so that you know exactly what you should be doing, what you should be training, so that you can start working towards your calisthenics goals. The first mistake that I see everybody doing is overcomplicate their training. They think that there's some secret method that all these elite athletes are hiding, but I'm here to tell you that there isn't. The more you try to complicate, the more you try and dig deeper into the world of calisthenics and include every little exercise that you see all these other athletes tell you to do, then you just end up doing way too much. But the reality is, progress comes by keeping things simple. The more you try and overcomplicate things, the more you try to find this secret that doesn't actually exist, is when you start losing focus on what actually matters. Now, the second mistake that I see a lot is people trying to rush the process. They skip progressions, they skip exercises, thinking that they'll go faster and progress quickly. Because like life, sometimes to go fast is to go slow. And let me put this into perspective for you. It's like building a skyscraper. If you try and rush the building of the foundation, sure, in the moment it might seem faster and try and build the levels on top, but you'll soon quickly realize that all of this will actually start to collapse because this foundation isn't strong. Whereas if you did take the time to build this strong foundation, in the moment it'll seem slower, but once that foundation is set, then you'll just be able to keep building and building and building to levels you would have never imagined were even possible. And guess what? It's gonna be stable. Everything's gonna be there. It's never gonna collapse because this foundation is there. So instead of rushing the process, just take things step by step. Now, the third mistake that I always see, and that I personally made as well when I first started calisthenics, was training too many skills at the same time. And the reason for this is that in calisthenics it's not just about strength. You need to realize that there's a whole neural side to the sport, and you need to adapt to every single movement pattern that you're exposing your body to. So usually in calisthenics you have to do 1 to 2 maximum skills at a time so that you can boost this neural adaptation. Because how do you expect your body, if you do, let's say 5 to 6 different skills in one session, to be able to really adapt and get accustomed to every single movement pattern at the same time? And it's like if you're studying for exam, the night before, you try and cram everything at the same time. Your brain is gonna be scrambled, you don't know what you're doing, and the next day you'll probably completely forget about everything. And that's why so many people blank out when it comes to exams. And it's the same thing in calisthenics, but instead of subjects, it's now skills. The fourth mistake that literally everyone has done in their calisthenics journey is skipping the accessory work. Thinking that if you just keep attempting and attempting and attempting, somehow you'll be able to get the skill. But that's just not how calisthenics works. Because these accessory exercises that everyone skips on at the end of their workout, they don't just build safe volume, but they also allow you to correct your weak points, work on your technique, your form, and most importantly, reinforces the correct activations that are required for the skill that you're working towards. And you don't actually realize the benefit that they bring until you actually do them. Now, the final and probably biggest mistake that keeps people stuck in this endless cycle of no progress is always trying to work out at 100% every single training. Because in calisthenics, you don't only need to be worrying about your physical recovery and muscles, you now also need to be worrying about your central nervous system, because calisthenics is a sport that heavily depends on your CNS. And that's why sometimes you've actually unlocked a skill, let's say the handstand, you've held it for 10 seconds, and then the next day you try go again and you can barely hold it at all. This is not because you're muscularly tired or you're doing something wrong. It's because you're not listening to your body and your central nervous system and giving it the rest time that it needs. And always pushing at 100% will guarantee you that you won't actually be recovering correctly to be able to progress in calisthenics. Progress comes from consistency, not always pushing yourself until your body feels destroyed. because that's exactly how you lead to burnouts as well as injuries, and therefore always feeling stuck in lack of progress. So before we get into how to structure your workout on a daily as well as weekly basis, you first need to understand the 3 pillars of progress, because without implementing these 3 pillars, you'll most likely eventually run into a plateau. So the 3 pillars that I've implemented into the way I train and has allowed me to reach skills such as the 2-finger planche are your structure, your mindset, as well as resilience. So the first pillar of progress is your structure. Because in calisthenics, the fastest way to progress is if you're intentional, you're specific, as well as consistent with your training. And this starts off by training 1 to 2 skills at once instead of trying to do everything at the same time. And it also means that you need to be choosing specific exercises that directly benefit these 1 to 2 skills that you're working towards. So let's say if you're working towards the planche, there's no point doing handstand push-ups that require bent arm strength when the planche requires solely straight arm strength. So you should be focusing on exercises that directly use straight arm strength that can benefit your planche. And lastly is your overall structure. Your structure shouldn't be this super rigid, mapped out plan where you know every single set, every single rep of every single day. It's about listening to your body and the signals that it gives you. And this is what I called structured intuition, so that you're able to make the most of every single day. Now the second pillar is your mindset. Probably the most important aspect about calisthenics, because your mindset will dictate how you approach your trainings, which will directly impact how you progress. Now, the 2 most important things that I talk about when it comes to your mindset is your confidence as well as visualization. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by confidence. When you're confident, you approach your trainings in a completely different way. You grip the bars differently, you enter a skill with more intent, and you naturally exert more force when you're actually performing an exercise. And this is only a couple things. And by doing just this, it will already be able to help you and benefit your performance. Now, the second aspect is the visualization. Visualization is a super powerful technique when it comes to calisthenics. This requires you to really deeply mentally rehearse yourself performing a skill that you're working towards, because your brain can't actually tell on a neural level the difference between performing a skill in real life and performing the skill in your mind. And again, I repeat, it's on a neural level, so this is when it comes to your central nervous system. So when done correctly, this technique will actually allow your body to activate the same neural pathways of the skill that you're mentally rehearsing. And this is amazing because visualization is used across every single sport. And the one that stood out the most to me was because I have a background in martial arts and I like to incorporate their way of thinking, their way of training into my training. Bruce Lee was someone that was already implementing this technique before it even reached the sports media back in the 1960s. And he explained how this was a massive thing that he used to benefit his trainings and get to the level that he managed to reach. And by implementing these 2 things, it actually creates something super important. It shifts your focus from actually chasing this progress to now actually focusing on more your journey. Because especially today, as we see more and more people starting calisthenics, or even those that are already on their journey, everyone is so fixated on chasing progress, and trying to get the next level every single training and completely forgetting about their journey that they're actually on. And I like to use an analogy for this. It's the garden and butterfly analogy. If you spend all your time trying to chase the butterflies, so in this case is the progress, you're never actually gonna get it. But if you actually spent the time to build a beautiful garden, then the butterflies will naturally come to you. And in this case, your garden is your journey. So once you truly accept that and you engrave this into your mindset, then that's when the true progress happens. Now the third pillar of progress is your resilience. Because during your calisthenics journey, life will always get in the way. You'll have periods where you lack motivation. You'll have periods of your life where you're more busy. You have work, you have injuries, and you even have unexpected things that might happen to you in your life. And that's normal, because that's what life is all about. And the athletes that learn how to adapt to this are the ones that are able to see true progress, because they don't focus on trying to adapt their lifestyle to their training, rather adapt their training to their lifestyle. And this is what allows them to stay consistent Because calisthenics is a sport that you can't rush. There's no shortcut or secret method that will get you the skills in a couple months. It's a sport that takes time. So if you're constantly under this pressure of adapting your lifestyle and trying to get this perfect routine going, then it's never gonna work. You're just gonna burn out, you'll end up with injuries, and you'll never see the progress that you wanna see. But when you learn to adapt, you take away all this pressure, and you'll be able to see the beauty of what time and consistency can bring you. Now, let's talk about how you should be structuring your training. So, your training should consist of 3 blocks: your skills block, volume block, as well as accessory block. And let's start with the skills block. This is where you're going to be performing attempts of a skill or progression that is slightly beyond your current level. For example, if you're working towards the planche, let's say, and you've got a pretty decent straddle hold and you're now trying to attempt the full planche. And the reason why we do this is because now you're putting your body slightly out of your comfort zone, meaning you're applying progressive overload to the skills that you're working for. And this progressive overload will allow your muscles as well as central nervous system to adapt to this new progression. So essentially, doing these attempts is allowing your body to adapt on a muscular as well as neurological level to then break past your plateaus. And the reason why you want to be doing this right at the start of your training is because the attempts is what requires the most amount of effort and the most amount of focus. So therefore, doing it at the start is what makes the most sense. Because if you were to do them fatigued, then the quality of your attempts will just drop, the activations won't be there, and you'll be actually training for a completely different movement pattern. Now, let me talk a little bit more about the rest in between each attempt. Because skills are a short burst of maximal effort, your body is going to be using an energy system called the ATP-PC. And in simple terms, just think of ATP as your energy currency for your body. It's basically what powers your body functions. And this is a system that your body uses when it's under maximal effort that's usually under 10 seconds. And by using this system, you now need to be able to use longer rest periods so you can fully recover for the next attempt. And this generally means resting between 3 to 5 minutes, and sometimes personally I even go up to 8 minutes when it's needed. Now let's talk about the volume block. This is where you're going to be able to build raw strength through volume and maximal repetition of exercises that are specific to the skill that you're working towards. So if you're working, let's say, for the planche, this would require exercises such as presses or push-ups. And if it's front lever, it would be raises or even pull-ups. And this is a block that still requires high intensity. But unlike the skill block, instead of focusing on having a good form, now the focus is to be able to do as many repetitions and build up as much volume to really increase your raw strength towards the skill. And the importance of the volume block is that because of these high repetitions and because of this higher time under tension, you now allow your body to engage a process called hypertrophy. And to put it in simple terms, hypertrophy is basically a process that allows the muscle fibers that you use during the training to adapt and grow bigger in size. And as these muscle fibers grow bigger and bigger, it now is able to exert more force, so the raw strength. And that is why the volume block is so important to do. Now, for the rest period in the volume block, you want to be aiming for around 3 to 5 minutes, as this is still high intensity. And something to note is that as your sets go on, it is acceptable that your form breaks down to be able to reach these extra reps, as long as you're aware of this and you're still trying your best to really engage the correct activations. Now, you want to be finishing off your workout with the accessory block. And what the accessory block does is that it allows you to really work on your weak points, your technique, your form, as well as condition joints and ligaments, but most importantly, reinforce all the correct activations for the movement patterns that are required for your chosen skills. And after the skills and volume block, your muscles are going to be fatigued, but the accessory block has exercises that allows you to shift and put full intention into really working on the correct activations in your skill. So I'm going to use myself as an example as someone that's already unlocked the full planche. My accessory block includes exercises such as planche leans and bands so that it's able to allow me to focus less on the strength element and really put more focus into the activations and my form. Because when these are done correctly and you really put maximum effort, maximum intensity into trying to engage all the correct activations for your skill, in this example, the planche, then you're really gonna be able to increase and boost this process of neural adaptation. So this is what a workout would look like when you apply these 3 training blocks. Now let's actually get into how you would structure your workouts across a whole week. And there's a big difference when it comes to structuring for beginners and then those who have been on their calisthenics journey for a bit longer. So I'm gonna first start off with how you would do it for more of a beginner level and those who actually start calisthenics. The way you want to be doing this is that you have a structured program. So let's say it's a push, pull, rest, or even if you do train legs, it'll be a push, pull, legs, rest, and then repeat. And the reason why you want to be doing this and not going straight away based on intuition is because by having this structured program where you record everything, you're now allowing yourself to gather data about yourself, about your body. So what's going well, what's going bad, what you're naturally good at, if it's push or pull, your recovery times, all of these things, all of this data gathered for yourself. And as time goes on, as you gather more data about yourself, you're now able to identify all these little signals, because at the start, you're gonna realize that some days you feel heavy, some days you feel really fresh. And then if you actually get this and put it into your database about your body, then you start to understand, okay, when I feel like this, I need to rest more. But when I feel like this, when I feel fresh, then that's when I use the maximum effort. That's when I make the most out of that day. And this is when you start to shift from a structured program into programmed intuition. But this requires a lot of time and reflection about yourself and data so that you're able to make all these intuition decisions and maximize the most of every single day. Now, once you do make the shift to the structured intuition, then you're no longer going to be structuring your week based on which skills or which exercises or which movement pattern, as if it's push or if it's pull. You're now going to be structuring based on intensity, because now you know when your body feels good. So when you should be going at 100%, when your body feels kind of heavy but you're still able to do something, so around 60%, and the days where you're fully tired, you know you can't be doing anything and it's not worth pushing yourself more because you need that time to recover. And that's the days where you either have active rest days or complete rest days. So this is a table that shows what your week should look like in terms of intensities. And notice how you're only going at 100% either once or twice a week, because it's just impossible to be able to back go 100% every single day. And if you look closer, the 100% day is always after a day where you're at 60%, because the way this works is that you can't take yourself from a rest day to 100%. It's like a car. If you turn it on, you can't just rev it straight away. You need to allow it to warm up. And these 60% days are there to be able to prime and warm up your CNS without putting too much stress on your body, so that you're then ready for a 100% day the next day. And this allows you to build bigger overall volume during the week without burning yourself out and without putting so much stress on your muscles as well as central nervous system. And that's basically all the topics that you need to know in order to work towards your goals and start seeing progress. However, I know it's a lot of information, so if I had to give you 3 key takeaways, this is what they would be. First is to not neglect your mindset, because this is just going to completely change the whole way you approach your trainings. So again, really focus on your confidence and visualization, because these are only going to bring you good things to your calisthenics progress. Secondly is to stop trying to adapt your lifestyle around your training and rather adapt your training around your lifestyle, because this is what's going to allow you to create a sustainable and consistent system to be able to progress in your calisthenics journey. And lastly, I know it sounds corny, learn to enjoy your journey. Learn to enjoy the process. Stop fixating so much about, okay, I just need more progress. Learn to enjoy it. It's unique to you. You're the only one that's gonna live through this journey. So might as well make the most of it and learn to have fun with it. And if you're someone that's serious about their calisthenics journey and you want me to personally guide you as your one-to-one coach to break past your plateaus, or start implementing this system that actually works, then just DM me the word change on Instagram, or you can actually book a call with me, and all the links will be in the description as well as my bio. So let's start working together and actually getting you to where you want to be.